So what we're going to be designing is this project here. It's going to be called C220. It's pretty much a bracket that snaps onto a tube, a half-inch tube. So basically what you want to do start out with is just looking at the object. You come up with a initial plan of design. What is the most effective and time conscious, the efficiency on the time is critical, so keep in mind. You look at that, you look, okay, you got a rectangle, just create that rectangle, extrude it out by 1 inch. Then I have these two little tabs, which are projections in the rectangle, allowing you to press weld the actual wire to the rectangle. And then we create the wire. Pretty simple. But as you can see, there's a break in the wire. It's not really that long. It's not really that long. It has to be 9 inches, so keep that in mind. If your drawing looks longer, that's because of it. So here we go. Basically what we want to start out with is on a top view. I preferably never use this because once you start using that, it does create some 3D problems. So please don't use this. I think it still has an error on it. I haven't resolved that with Autodesk yet. But what you want to do is start a line thickness here is 13 gauge. So here's another gauge we need to specify. So I'm going to quickly Google it. And it's going to be standard thickness 0.0897. So keep that in mind. If you want to write that down, do so now. But yeah, so give it a line command, making sure my ortho is on. I don't like grid, so turn off grid. And I'm going I didn't write that out. What was it now? 0.0897. 0.0897. Pretty small, so you can double click your scroll button, and that'll zoom into the entire object that you've drawn so far. You have a vertical line at 1.57. Now technically you didn't have to do that first part. What you could have just done was, actually we do have to, because we have the bottom base dimension, but we don't have the top overall dimension. So you have to use the bottom as a reference. I'm going to do, like it says, is 0.52, and then also the thickness again, 0.0897. Height, and I close it up. You remove that centerpiece, that 0.52, because I no longer need that, and I can use the offset command. So in your modified options, you go to offset. Our offset is going to be the thickness of the material, which is 0.0897. From there, you're offsetting all 3 lines inwards, and we can trim off the x-axis parts. To do a trim, to make it quick and easy, use the trim command. Select the entire object, you right click, and you just remove all the parts you don't need. That pretty much concludes that little segment. Now we can of course extrude this out and make it 3D, but we're not going to do that. We're going to move forward with the 2D wire. This one's going to be a little bit tricky because we don't have all the specified information. So we're going to start with the line at the bottom. It's 1 inch in addition to the half the thickness, which is 0.236. Alright, that doesn't go there. So that's 0.118. We go across from that point will be 9 inches minus the 0.236. So, or we can just do, actually, yeah, we'll do that. So 8.764. Okay, if you have problems with that, what you can do is type in cal for a calculator. Should activate a calculator on your. No, this doesn't even do that anymore. So what you can do. Where's my calculator? You go to Tools, Ballots, Quick Cal. There you can type in or click on the digits to find out exactly the size you're looking for. 3, 6. 8.764, yep, that's what I had. Now, as you can see, the PDF is missing a critical dimension here. It's not showing how long this 30-degree angle is, so from what point it starts, because that could start from here and be that long. So we have to quickly estimate based on this drawing. So if this is 1 inch, I believe this would be about ½ an inch. So just do it that way. It doesn't have to be perfect. The idea is for you to design what is given. So we'll do that now. ½ inch, 0.5, and with the 30-degree angle, which you can try on polar, create that 30-degree angle, like so. I extend that out that 9 inch all the way to here, and I trim it off. Like so. So that's going to be my path. The only thing I have to add to that is a fillet, because you can never get a 90-degree turn on a wire. So what we're going to do is do a fillet. We're going to type in the radius. Most machines, what they do with the radius is, I think it's 1/16 in addition to the actual thickness of the wire. So at this point, I'm just going to put in 0.3. Oh, not sure why that didn't quite work. Radius. Like so. We also need the actual thickness of the wire, so we're going to do a circle with the diameter of 0.236. Anywhere on the screen, doesn't matter, because when we do the sweep command, we can select the circle and the path, and it should follow right through. So I think we are done with the basic 2D drawing, and you can always go back if we need to add additional stuff. But for now, we're going to leave it as is, and we're going to go into 3D modeling. If you're not in 3D modeling, do so now. It's supposed to be 3D modeling here. And what we're going to do is, from extrude, you can go into sweep command. We select the circle. Oops. Select the circle. Enter. And we're going to select the path. That's right. One thing to notice, that if you do not make this a polyline, which meaning a single line, it will not follow through with making that sweep all the way through. So what you need to do is either use p-edit, which is polyline edit, or you can trace over with a polyline. That's pretty much the basic two most important commands to do so. So to p-edit, you will type in p-edit. Some of you guys know this, some of you may not. P-edit, you type in M for multiple, or you select down here, and you select all these lines. You click enter, and you say yes is like default, so we click enter yes again, and we can just click enter to exit out. And that creates, no, it did not. What's going on here? Maybe I missed a line. P-edit, M for multiple. Oh, I'm sorry, join. We forgot to select our options here. Once you do p-edit and you do multiple, you select all your items. You tape, and then you select J for join. Join, click enter, and enter. And that creates one polyline instead of a segmented line. From there, you can go back to your Home tab, go to Sweep, select the circle, select the path, select the circle, enter, select the path, and it creates that 3D part. If you want a better visual view from your 2D wire to conceptual, you go into your View tab here, and you go to Conceptual. For this rectangle, we're not going to work on creating it as a polyline, even though it would benefit us a little bit, but we're going to use the easy command of press pull. Press pull is also in your Home tab. It's right next to your polysolids and all these extrude options. You have to take that press pull and you make sure that you select inside the object you want to extrude out. So you select that inside and you're going to actually give it a height of 1 inch, like so. There's actually additional 2 parts that we need to create for this object or this drawing, and actually we need to also add a fillet to this edge here. To do that, we go, I'll look into the PDF, there's a hole over here that allows it to hang on for powder coating, and this is a projection, 2 projections, probably 0.04 wide, to allow for press welding. So the current, when they're welding it together, goes through that little gap, and that's what actually melts and bonds both these objects together. So we go back to our drawing. You can start out with the actual hole. To do that, make sure you rotate in a direction so you can see the back. We also rotate our X and Y coordinate systems so that X and Y are facing us, so we can see both, not Z. And we're going to create a circle. Again, see, there's also missing information about the circle size. So the circle size, diameter, it's usually 1/8, because that's the wire they use to hang parts on the powder coating. So we'll do that. Do 1/8. We can go a little bit bigger since you don't want to go the size of the wire because it'd be really hard to fit. We should make it bigger, so we're going to go with diameter of 22. From there, we take the move command and we move the object from its center to the midpoint of the rectangle. If you do not have the midpoint options activated, make sure you right click on auto snap, and this is highlighted, the midpoint. From there, we also move it over using the gizmo. We're moving it over, let's say about 1/2 inch. Now I guess, again, this is not, there's no specifications on this, so you could specify whatever you prefer. Otherwise, you can follow me as I'm doing it. I see that it's a little too far, so I can bring it back down 0.25. And from there I do a press pull, and that cuts that hole right out of that. So we have that. We have the powder coating hook hole. We have our actual back bracket, and we have your wire. The wire needs a fillet, so we can do that next. Go to fillet command. R for radius, we'll do 1/16. It creates something like that. So we have that part, we have that. Now we also need to add those projections. The projections are just rectangles that are about the width of the wire, usually a little longer. and we'll place them just about where we see it on a drawing. Now here I'll show you where the projections are. So here's a projection, and here's a projection. So we go back to our drawing. Our X and Y coordinate system are fine. I'm just going to create a rectangle on the side. So I take rectangle, I select it anywhere on the screen. D for dimension. The length will be maybe 0.0625, which is 1/16, by the height, which will be 0.375, which is 3/8. We just place it on the screen, and we can extrude that out by 0.04. Now these are numbers I'm giving you. If you want to change it, make it a little wider, less wider, whatever you prefer, that's fine. Now, to give it an option of rotating, if you place the part in the wrong rotation, what you can do is select the item. You'll see the move gizmo is activated. You can change the move gizmo into a rotate gizmo, at which point it's like a wheel. As you turn it, it will turn it at that axis. So if you're turning in red, which is the x-axis, it's going to rotate that way. If you select a different axis, it will rotate that way, and so forth. So you can play around with that for your own preference. Make sure again you have ortho on, or you have polar and you do 90 degrees, and then we can start placing this part onto either our rectangle or our wire. We do a move command, select the object. This time we're moving it from the midpoint here to the midpoint of the rectangle, like so, and we're moving it up. You can either use the move command, or you can change your gizmo into a move, select the object, and you move it over, let's say, 1/2 inch. And also making a copy, the same, make sure it's ortho is active. I'm going to do about 1, oh no, that's too much, 0.75. Now if these are too far out, so that's fine, you can just select both and move them in the other direction. Then you can take the final wire, connect it from the quadrant. If you don't have the quadrant option activated, you should do that now, which is right click on the OSNAP quadrant, select the quadrant, make it place here. And then here's the issue, we do have the actual distance from our wire to our top of our rectangle. It's 0.32. Not sure why they required that, but we do have to follow the spec, so we're going to do that. So we're going to actually, I'm going to move this object based on quadrant here to the midpoint of my rectangle. From there, moving it down the required distance of 0.32, and then I have to move it over. And I can use this as a reference. It's not going to let me get the quadrant. So as you can see, these projections are in the wrong position, so I can move them down again. And maybe even closer to each other. There we go. And actually, that is the completed part. Oh, except it's not centered anymore. So I have to resolve that by drawing a line. as a reference, and I move it over. Completely lost it here. Sometimes this gets really tricky. Okay, it's aligned. Might have to just draw a reference line. From the center. And then finally move it down 0.32. Give me the exact design that I'm looking for. Let's see. Well, yeah, that's pretty much it. Then you just have to put in a title block, put your name, date, name of the project, and the dimensions required. If you like, I'm going to dabble in a little bit of rendering. We're going to add in material to this object. So right now, it's set at a layer that is probably default, does not have any material or anything set. So to get a little bit feeling of material, especially if you want to put material in your previous projects that you've done for this class, which was the toy train, or the other, the C220 project, what you can do is in your tabs here, there's a render option. You can material browse, and that's going to load up, and hopefully it will load up all the different materials that they have to offer. You can expand this out to give you explanation of what it is, what category, so ceramics, what type, name of it, and even the actual preview of the color. They can go by type, by category, it's all up to you. So if you type generic, then there's wood, there's masonry, plastic, stone, and so forth. Again, I said that it's going to be powder coated since we do have a powder coating hook, so you can just put any color you like. Remember, each part, as long as it's separate, will be powder coated differently. Will be rendered differently if you want to do that, even though during powder coating it's probably going to be just one plain color. Oops, that was that. This gives you a preview up here which materials are being used. So I have these. Global is generic, the red one, and I did the blue one twice. Not sure why. You can delete it by selecting and removing. And I can also keep on implementing more material. There's some really cool LEDs because they glow, or at least they look like they glow. So you can place those on the objects also. All you do is select the material, drag it, and drop it, and it snaps onto the material. If you want to make an object surface completely different from the other surfaces, there is also another option to do that. You can, like here, it's the neon yellow. I'm going to make the back that neon yellow. So I'm going to select it, I'm going to hold Control, and it creates that color only on the back surface. So I'll show you an example of what it completely looks like. I'm going to rotate my object because I'm not fond of how it's set up right now. I'm going to rotate using the gizmo. And now if I go to like a isometric view, I prefer that. The thing about rendering is it's a little weird because the screen actually it's going to render the full screen, so even this area here it gets rendered out. Even though it's all black, there's no material there. So if you zoom in a little bit more than you should, that is fine. It's not going to do that screen. We're going to do the full rendering. So again, you go back to your render tab and you click on this teapot, and that's going to render your object. Oh, kind of cut it a little too short here. So I can just move my screen, and it looks like I'm also missing a material on that back panel, which I thought I placed. So I'm going to render it once more. There we go. I got this new cool red, this neon LED green, and the blue backing. Again, if you wanted to just place one color per face or surface, you drag, hold Control, and you place it on a specified object. Hoping that that's. And you click Render again. You can see, turned yellow. Still got the green, and still got the red. Now, if this is taking longer than you wish, because the computer is slow, what you can do is change settings on rendering quality. Right now it's at medium. There it goes up to all the way to presentation. To do that, what you can do is, where's my material now? Rendering. Oh, it's gonna be this arrow here, advanced rendering settings. There you can change the output size, which also affects how long your computer will take to render the object. And on the top here it says medium. You can do a draft or a low quality. Or if you feel like it's a perfect match of colors and everything, and you want to get it really nicely detailed, you can do the presentation, which takes a longer time to process, but the view is better. So I can go back to that. Just going to change the size a bit bigger, render that out. As you can see, it is taking longer than the other ones. The other ones took a couple of seconds, this one takes 5. But this is a simple project. Now, if you had a very complex object or a room, this could take 3 or 4 hours. So keep that in mind. But it's nicely presentable, and you can see, you can zoom into it. Still have the nice colorings. That concludes this project. Well, in addition to, you're going to also have to add the dimensions to it.